the ISSAP certification is something that is offered by, just to make sure that we do not miss anything on the recording part. This is something which is offered by IC Square. Someone need to be a CISSP in a good standing with at least 2 years of cumulative experience in your security architecture, with at least one or more than experience in one or more than 6 of the domains of your CISSP, ISSAP common body of knowledge, which means so we have 6 domains of your ISSAP. You can find out more details around the what are the domains, like it has into risk management, it has into application security, uh, infrastructure security, security operations, legal aspects. So there are 6 domains in there. We're not going to talk more about what exactly contains an examination outline. That's the reason I've included the link in there. All right. So one has to have at least 2 years, like someone has to be CISSP and minimum 2 years of like understanding of CISSP, and then one or more than 6 domains of experience in your ISSAP domains. All right, so that's the kind of a knowledge that you already would have if you're looking out for this certification. Now, who should be doing this ISSAP certification? If you are any, if you're someone who is a lifelong learner who wants to make sure that you continue to learn actively, you do not want to give yourself a stop. That okay, I'm done for most of the things that I have to do in career, and you don't have that kind of a mindset that you have reached a saturation. This certification is for you. There are a lot of people who are into the roles of not into architecture, but they still go ahead and do the certification. Why? Because they want to keep on learning new things, new aspects. Or you are in one of the existing roles which have been listed on the presentation, like someone who is in a system architecture or a security architecture. So someone who is who is either a chief technology officer or a system or network designer or business analyst or chief security officer or a simple security architect or a solution architect, they are the ones who can actually go ahead and do the certification. Or in case if you want to aspire to become a security architect or any of these roles, can this certification help? Well, I have a kind of a mixed feeling with this answer, because yes, it does give you a perspective that is required for anyone who wants to become a security architect. What kind of a things we need to do? What are the key aspects that we have to look into it? But it doesn't talk a lot about your real life scenarios. So if you're a CISSP certified, that CISSP is going to be a good starting point for you, anyone who wants to get into a security architecture. That's for sure, because the security architect's role is more of overseeing any kind of a design, implementation, evaluation of the security posture for any solution. That could be either on-prem or maybe a cloud. It could be a network. It could be mobile application, mobile devices, mainframe, desktop, whatever it is. A security architect indulges themselves in various aspects of or fundamentals of your security. So my recommendation would be, if you are an aspiring security architect or a solution architect or a system architect who wants to get into an architecture role, my recommendation would be, and it's again based on my professional experience. I'm into security architecture for more than 6 years now. Have worked into different domains like your healthcare, fintech, financial organizations, and based on my experience, I can tell, yes, CSSP is going to be definitely a big help for you to enter the world of security architecture. Once you spend time, a little bit of time, like a year or 2 years, understand the fundamentals of security architecture, then probably ISSAP would be a great exploration of the way of the facts that are being discussed within this particular curriculum for your career. Okay, now in case if you're looking for a career into security architecture, you want a big breakthrough, would this certification help? Maybe for your screening of your CV, screening of your resume. Yeah, maybe for that purpose, yes, that could be a big help. But would that help in understanding everything that goes into the real world scenario? Probably not. Okay, so the recommendation would be, in case if you have an existing experience of your security architecture for maybe a year or two, this certification will be definitely a great advantage. All right. Now moving ahead, one of the most challenging part, what kind of resources we have available. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of resources. This is the most common question that I got after I cleared my ISSAP last month, and a lot of people reached out to me that what kind of resources would be available. And I hate to say that there aren't a lot of resources. I even mentioned that in my post, like it would be a great advantage if IC Square decides to put down some kind of resources out there. So they have their uh, one of the resources, study resources available. That's, I think you need to buy it from them. I've never seen how it looks like, so probably I won't be able to comment or judge on that, how exactly the resources look like. It might be up to date, it might be relevant to the examination, it might be relevant to the examination outline, or it might be relevant to the industry experience, because IC Square also runs the job task analysis. So I'm kind of hoping it is relevant there. But the resources which are made available that someone can purchase through Amazon or through other websites, they this particular certification lack some kind of resources. All right. Now, what I used for my preparation, I got access to Common Book of Knowledge, the second edition. Now, this book is pretty old, almost a decade old, right? It was written by one of my great mentors and someone whom I admire a lot, by Adam Gordon. He has done a phenomenal job in writing that particular book. It has a great in-depth understanding of security architecture, something that is going to prepare you for this examination for sure. Now, the fact is this particular resource is old. However, this particular resource is still one of the most relevant things that you will have access to. Trust me, if you want to prepare for the certification CBK second edition, despite of being old, it doesn't contain anything on the technologies, like for example, let's say what exam outline mentions about, like your cloud, or maybe your security operations center, or maybe your, let's say, microservices, zero trust, or anything of that sort. It doesn't include any bit of it. However, this resource is still one of the most relevant and the closest thing. So, I mean, hats off to the way he has written the book. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Adam, the way he articulates things. It is, it requires a specific set of mindset to comprehend everything that he writes down, right? Take CISSP fourth edition CBK, take CCSP CBK second edition, take CBK second edition for ISSAP, and many other resources. He has done a commendable job in writing down these kind of resources. So this is one of the primary resource I would say you should have access to, apart from examination outline, right? This should be your primary resources. You should at least go through the resource once, at least once, right? He has even included, and don't forget, don't miss out the keynotes, the bibliography that he has included after each and every page or after each and every chapters. That what is the reference link? For example, let's say there's a topic of, maybe let's say, cross certification PKI. Hypothetically, I mean, that was the topic that just came to my mind. And he has mentioned some of the reference links where you can read more about the cross certification in PKI. Well, go ahead and read that link. It's something, it gives you a perspective that probably might be missing in most of the resources. So he has done a great job in bringing on, consolidating all the resources out there and just bringing at one place. So that's a great piece that has been done by IC Square and Adam both, right? There's also some of the specific resources mentioned by IC Square in the reference links. I didn't manage to go through all of them, but I did go through some of the NIST publications. They were free of cost. They were actually amazing to go through. I mean, some of the NIST references have been mentioned on virtualization. They are great. Okay, so I would highly recommend that go ahead and review the content which is mentioned there in the your NIST references. for your business continuity, for your disaster recovery, for your virtualization, for your SDLC, for your risk management. These are some of the publications that I personally refer just to have a perspective of what NIST is recommending. And it's no brainer, right? You, in case if you have already appeared for CISSP or other IC square certification, IC square heavily relies on what exactly NIST recommends. That's a perspective that IC square tests the candidates on. You might want to get a reference of what NIST is recommending, right? That's a huge addition that you can add to your resource bucket. So in case if you don't want to go ahead and look into most exhaustive list of NIST publications, at least go through the virtualization and business continuity DR. These two are great. All right. The next resource that we have is the golden resource by my brother Prab Nair. He has close to 40 plus videos on his YouTube channel that's based on ISSAP. Hands down to him. He has spent so many hours just for giving back to the community, just to give back to the community on the knowledge that he has, and he is so much thriving to just to share it with the world. I I, I speak to Prab almost every week based on the projects that we are working together, based on the webinars that we are planning together. And despite of the fact, I keep on looking on every new thing that he has to contribute. I keep a track. I he His channel is one of those things that I have subscribed and even pressed on the bell icon. The lot of You might have seen the YouTubers tell you, they ask you to subscribe, like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so that you will get to know if there's a new video. I follow Prab that religiously, and there's a reason behind it. His videos on ISSAP played a pivotal role in my passing this exam. Some of the key concepts on your SDLC. I have never ever seen. Not sure if you have gone through the SDLC videos on his channel, right? It's relevant for your CSSP, CCSP, CSSLP, ISSAP, EP, other kind of certifications as well. In case if you have gone through the SDLC, his resource are the only resource which are closest to the actual thing that you will face. No resource, not CBK, not your official study guide, not your all-in-one, not even NIST, talks about the kind of SDLC steps that his videos talks. That is one of the best resources I've seen. Have you seen the details and the way such an eloquently he explains the concept, very complicated concepts like your EAP, or maybe like what's the difference between EAP TLS and TLS EAP, or TTLS. The kind of subtle differences, how exactly one only does a server-based certification, how exactly does both client and server-based certification. What's the challenge for doing this? What's the difference between CHAP, PAP, EAP, and what's the difference between Radius and Tech Plus? Just go through the playlist. It's close to 40. Uh, I think close to 40 videos are there, but trust me, it's worth it. All right. In case if you're a CISSP certified, right? This is not only one of the prerequisites but also a huge advantage. If someone is a CISSP certified, this examination is also doable. Just like if you have done CISSP, you have actually got your windows of opportunities open for rest of the examinations, rest of the certifications, and whatever you have in place. So I used CISSP official study guide for some of the key topics. Like for example, not that I was struggling through, because I appeared for my CSSP exam 6 years ago, when it was still those 250 questions, 6 hours of marathon, right? So there were a lot of concepts which have changed over the period of time, but I do like to keep myself updated based on if because there's a book that I have to keep on updating, which is Memory Palace. So I have to keep on reading what exactly IC Square is updating. So, uh, but still, I relied on some of the topics. For example, I did go ahead and look back on the disaster recovery section. I also went back and looked into some of the networks, communications, and network security. I also looked back and went back and checked into your business continuity or maybe something on the SDLC. So these were few topics that I did refer, not extensively, but in case if you the same kind of understanding that you have on your CISSP, it's the same amount of understanding you need to have for ISSAP, at least if you're referring to those resources, because CISSP doesn't goes into the deep in-depth understanding. It's just touch the basic of it, and I think that's more than enough. What kind of questions we should practice? Now this is one of the biggest challenges because we don't have any kind of a questions, and there's a lot of websites, I'll be very honest, there are a lot of websites who talks about that there are some of the questions or exam dumps out there for ISSAP. Don't get into the traps. I was reached out by someone. Okay, I'm not going to name anyone. So I was reached out by someone last year, I think in the month of September or October, that they bought this kind of an exam dump, and they said that this is going to be there in the examination. So I was telling the story of someone who reached out to me that, hey, this is a great resource. They bought it by paying some money on some kind of a website. I don't even know what website was there, and they mentioned that this is going to be the real examination question. And I warned that person there is nothing, because I already appeared for 2 IC² examination in past, and I told that person that no, don't get into these kind of traps. But that was, I think, too late, and the person couldn't pass this exam, right? And it's surprisingly those websites go ahead and do a great marketing, and the only reason why they are being so successful in doing it, not because people fall into these traps, because unfortunately we don't have any resources, right? So they take an advantage of the lack of resources available, and they try to use that as a selling point to the potential candidates, right? So what kind of a questions it will be we should be doing for your ISSAP preparation? Don't get into these kind of traps. Just focus on your CISSP practice test. Believe me, they are more than enough. You have around like 5-10 questions after each and every domains of your official your CBK second edition. That's there, right? That's already there, but you can pick up your official practice test second edition, third edition, whatever the latest one is there. If you have been preparing for CISSP, each domain has 100 questions and 150 questions or 125 questions, I don't know how many are there, for your full length practice test, right? Those questions are great, phenomenal, still very relevant for your ISSAP. So go through and do those. Go through those and make sure that you. I mean, if you have been listening to me earlier as well on the CISSP examination mindset, I always recommend that when you practice the test, practice in such a way that you will be taking a real exam. You've been practicing, or you would be giving the real exam, because when you take up a real exam, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of nervousness, and you don't want to be overwhelmed, and you want to go ahead and so that your real exam is going to look at the like a just like a practice test. I mean, I remember I was doing these full length practice test maybe like a 5 days or 6 days before my exam, and I was trying to do a time check, how much time it's taking me. So I was taking, like, I was doing 150 questions, and it used to take me approximately 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours 20 minutes, something around that. Which means that gave me a great confidence that yes, I can actually go ahead and do that. And the same strategy I applied in my real exam. I was not spending too much time on the questions. I was not spending too less time, not too much time. I was just going through like, okay, this is my gut says this is the right option, because it's kind of like the I mean, I won't be able to speak much about the examination experience, but it's something, you know how exactly IC² exams are, right? But you don't have to spend too much time in uh, wrapping your head around. Well, whatever your gut says, go ahead with that. Okay, to have that kind of a mindset. One resource that I was suggested by someone on destination no, sorry, certification station. That's a Discord server that, in case if you're not already a part of that, I would recommend you can go ahead and join it. They have thousands of people across the globe, great professors out there. Thor is available there, Adam is there, Gwen is there, Ben used to be there. I don't know if he's still around. Wentz was also there. I mean, they have a huge pool of professors around, and uh, they are a great. They also have a separate channels for the concentration. So shout out to them. They are doing a great job. All the moderators, admins, everyone is phenomenal. So someone out there recommended. I just simply, I mean, I'm also a part of that server, so I reached out that someone who passed the ISSAP test recently, and I reached out that, what do you think, or what was the preparation strategy? That person, that guy recommended that there is a CISSP test app by ABC Learning, and he suggested me to go heavy on these. I said, okay, let me do that. And he suggested that this test app is free of cost. You can download it, but I would recommend that you take a paid version, because it's like, if you take a question, if you take a sample test like a 10 question, there's an advertisement that's going to happen. But unfortunately, the paid version is only available on Android devices. So what I did, I don't have an Android device, so my daughter uses an Android device, so I bought this app on her device, and it was worth it. It wasn't costly at all. So in Indian rupees, it was around 370 rupees, which is how much? $4 or 4.5 US dollars, something around. It's cheap. I should not use this word. It's one of the least expensive investments I've done. Trust me. And this resource was a game changer. I can vouch on this. So one quick heads up. This resource is based on a very old syllabus. So someone who got introduced to CISSP almost 10 years ago, right? Where we used to have 10 domains of CISSP, where the only resources available with us was either Sean Harris book or the CCCure website. It's based on that uh, content, but it is phenomenal. I mean, there would be a lot of questions on Orange Book. There would be a lot of questions on your Red Book, Purple Book, or TCS, EC, or other things which are no longer testable. That you would find probably like 5 or 6% of the content testable on that, but you can ignore it. These questions that we have in this particular application, they are phenomenal. It's something that you can actually test your preparedness. I mean, it's technical. This particular uh, app had the questions which were technical, because this is slightly more technical exam as compared to CISSP, and I'll talk more about in the examination mindset. But this is something which is one of the great uh, like investments I've done, and it was very useful. It has around 1200 questions, worth it. Each and every question was worth it, right? And one of the things that you generally, I mean, I did went through this, so I can share my story that I was lacking motivation, honestly, because being an architect for more than 6 years, this certification wasn't required as per my job. It wasn't, right? I was doing pretty decent at my job. It wasn't a necessity as per my role, but this is something, one of the challenges I gave myself when I went into an architecture role, that I'm going to go ahead and do the certification, right? So I wanted to do this. Just I wanted to give myself a challenge, and trust me, it was worth proving myself that yes, it is doable. But because one of the hardest thing about this particular certification, it's not the exam, it's the knowing what to prepare and how to prepare. What is still you can explore by looking at your examination outline, but at what level, at what depth you can go ahead and prepare, that was one of the hardest things, as what I felt. I mean, I was preparing with one of my close friends. He also is my former colleague. We both prepared together. We both used to test each other on a weekly basis, and that we used to motivate. I mean, he has also been in architecture, and he's much more intellect than what I am. I'm nowhere close to him. I mean, he has all those SAPSA certifications, TOGAF certification. I mean, literally, you name it, anything from an architect, he has everything. So, uh, we both used to motivate each other's, and then that this is what it is required. So find motivation, find a purpose for why do you want to go ahead and do the certification. Even if you want to go ahead and do that just for the sake of challenge, I think it's worth it. All right. So that's something. I mean, uh, like I said, the resources are one of the most challenging thing about this examination. It's not the rest of the things. Finding out how do we start. A lot of people only simply give up by just looking at that. The only official book it has, it's a decade old. Should we still consider it? The answer is yes. You should go ahead and consider it because that's the closest thing that you will feel, that you will see from your strategy, examination strategy point. Now let's talk about the, probably this is the last topic that I'm going to speak about here, is the examination mindset. Now, for those who have already given a CISSP examination, you would know that CISSP is considered as an inch deep and mile wide. This examination is different. This is a technical certification. It's not a management certification. So you need to go ahead little few feet deeper, right? Maybe a couple of feet deep, because it requires you to have a fundamental understanding of everything as well as the technical understanding of everything. But it is not huge. It doesn't have a lot of content. It's not as vast as CISSP. CISSP has 8 domains, but trust me, it talks about hundreds of concepts, right? Whereas an ISSAP has 6 domains. It's crisp, it's concise, but it is in depth. So one has to know in-depth understanding of everything. For example, let's say if we talk about, um, let's say what kind of a topic I should pick. Let's say Kerberos, right? Kerberos, you know Kerberos, it's a ticket-based third-party authentication service, right? That is required for to enable single sign-on capability, right? Probably you might want to take yourself a little ahead and talk about the entire Kerberos realm. How exactly the authentication happened, how exactly the user ID travels from system, how exactly KDCS is the authentication servers, how exactly the TGT is generated, the symmetric key is generated, and so on. I mean, you know the process, right? This requires a little much, I mean, not little, much more understanding than the knowledge that you have gained for CSSP. What is the probably relationship of your Kerberos server and the DNS server? How exactly they are going to synchronize with each other? What is the purpose of DNS server in the, I mean, how you would want to make sure? And these things are generally spoken in your official, your CBK book, so probably you'll have a better understanding there, right? So you need to have a much more technical understanding of your topics, and not only the fundamental. I mean, if you know the fundamental, you just want to go ahead a little bit deeper. If not, you don't want to configure anything. That's the role of a practitioner. But you need to know things from a technology. How does the technology function? All right. This certification requires a technical mindset, but also from a management perspective, which means you need to find out a solution that is beneficial not only for a certain technology but at an enterprise level. So the mindset is equivalent as your CISSP, but it requires a slightly more technical mindset, but from a management perspective. So it's a kind of a combination of CISSP and something that you have been doing at your technical aspects. Now, how does the security, I mean, in case if you're here and in some of you are security architects or solution architects or system architects or anything related to architecture, let's assume, where do you see your involvement? Think of it as, let's say you are going to construct a building, or maybe a building a bridge, whatever it is, right? What is the first thing that you want to do it whenever you construct a building or you build a bridge? The very first thing is to understand, why do we need this? What is the problem that we are trying to solve? So essentially what we are talking about is identifying the scope of the work, right? That's a very beginning thing. And where do you want to involve the architects? Just there, when we are trying to identify the scope. So idea is, get yourself involved as early as possible while you're gathering the requirement, while you're thinking to build a design. So if you look at the SDLC phases at a very high level, how does it look like? Requirement gathering, design, develop, test, implementation, right? So where do you want to involve a security architect? somewhere around while the requirement is still being gathered. Nothing has been finalized. You still want to be a part of the discussion. Why are we doing this? What is the necessity of bringing this solution in this enterprise? What's the business case? What's the use case of it? And try to understand how you can. I mean, as as early as you will be involved, you will be able to think of a larger picture. You will be able to facilitate in a better way. That is the kind of an involvement, and this is the right mindset you even have to do. You have to be in while you're attempting any kind of a questions. Where should be your exact involvement? Whenever you're proposing any kind of a solution, we need to think about a long-term solution. It's not something a quick fix that we're looking for. We're looking for something, a strategic solution that can actually ensure a certain thing has been eradicated or a certain problem has been eradicated from the root cause, right? Until unless you have been explicitly asked to find out a quick fix. Okay? If you have not been specifically asked to find out a short term solution, always think about finding out a long term solution. Make sure that you always balance between security and business enablement. Just because we are security professionals, we are security architects, or we are anything from security, we are not here to stop the show. We are not the showstopper. We are not the roadblockers, and this is a kind of a most uh, I don't know how do I put it elegantly, more elegantly than this. This I mean, this is something one of the most accused thing that security professionals go through, right? We are accused for being a showstopper. We are accused for being a roadblocker. The only reason because a lot of security professionals don't understand their jobs. Our job is not to pull us around. We are not here to dictate how people should do the business. That is a wrong understanding. I don't know who asked people to do that. We are not gonna take a stick around and tell people, hey, either it's my way or highway. No, that's not what we do. We are just going to propose or facilitate that, hey, this is the right way to do it. If you learn, if you're going to do this, phenomenal. If you cannot do this, okay, well, my job is just to articulate the risk to you, just to tell you this is a problem. If you're okay to proceed ahead with this problem, that's it. That is our job. No matter what you do, if you're a network security, if you're into application security, if you're into identity and access management or risk assessor, doesn't matter who you are. That is everything we should be doing it. And that is what being taught in the theoretical pieces, and that is how it need to be replicated. This is the closest thing that generally works. I mean, because normally I myself say that the theoretical world and the practical world is absolutely different, right? But this is the closest thing that probably you will see, that whatever we do, it's essentially we want to make sure that we enable the business. We should not stop it, right? For example, let's say whatever the best security solution that you might think, it's the perfect one, it's the most expensive one, it's the out there in at the Gartner magical quadrants or the golden quadrants, whatever the things are, right? That might not be feasible in our situation. So it's important that you have to propose whatever the right solution for a specific use case, for the organization that you're working for the problem that you're trying to solve. You don't have to spend a lot of money just because you think it's a perfect solution. Your uh, what do we say? Market competitors are using it, right? That might not be feasible at us. One of the most important mindset that I have, it's a key amalgamation of your own experience and knowledge. It has helped me a lot, and that is the reason I said at the very beginning of this presentation that in case if you aspire to become a security architect, probably this is not a right certification that you should go ahead with. My recommendation would be to go ahead with CISSP first. It's important that we make sure, if your job involves by looking at the architecture design diagram, by looking at the data flow, by looking at the low level design, high level design, the connection initiation, logical context, system context, security context, all those kind of diagrams, if you have been looking at your day-to-day job, well, you would be in a much nicer spot to answer any kind of questions, right? Because you have been fundamentally trying to solve your organization's problem, that's exactly the real world problem you will be tested on in your examination.